start the meditation with a little bit of breathing and then set the motivation after do the prayers. Okay? So let's think that whatever we do during this coming session, may all of this become a cause for us to bring lasting happiness to all sentient beings. got to page 10, right? Page 10 was where we got to. Now it says here, just before the next outline, the stronger and firmer our fear and faith, the stronger and firmer our refuge. So we're less talking about fear here, fear of suffering. That is generated, like a rational kind of fear based on reasoning, that kind of fear. Also, what I need to mention is we're not fearful of the events that happen around us, but rather being fearful of our reaction to them. Because of course we can't change the events, we can't change the fact that we'll die, we will age, we will grow sick, all the other calamities in life. Those, right now, we can't change them. We live in a world with lots of problems, lots of difficulties, but it's our reaction to those. It depends on us. So to be fearful, again, rational kind of fear of our reaction, and therefore seeking Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, relying on them in order to be able to deal with these problems, with these difficulties in an effective way. So to see them as challenges, see them as opportunities to grow, rather than feeling depressed, etc. about them. And for that, we rely mainly on the Dharma to do that. The Dharma gives us the solutions to that. And of course, never to forget that the Dharma we are relying on are really the cessation of suffering by way of eliminating the causes through the means to do so. So rely on the Dharma in the stricter sense as that which inspires us, that is what we're aiming towards, that's what inspires us in other people. And of course we rely on the teachings to be able to accomplish the cessation, the truth of cessation and the truth of the path. And then with regard to faith again, faith based on reasoning, it should make sense to us. This is not a long list of just, oh, Buddha is great, Buddha is great, Buddha is great, just rely on the Buddha. No, there's explanations for that. But here just from the Lamrim Chenmo, he has just explained what are the qualities. Well, first of all, the Buddha, and then later of all the other beings. But of course the Buddha being the one who teaches the Dharma, who came to realize the Dharma, for whom what he's teaching is not just theory. Right now for us that's theory. For a Buddha it's his or her own experience, and then teaching us so that we have the opportunity to make it our own experience. And then the Pramanavartika, in the beginning of the second chapter of the Pramanavartika, there is a lot of debate on what comes first. Do you first generate faith in the Buddha and then in the Dharma? Or do you generate faith in the Dharma first and then in the Buddha? Which one makes more sense? In the Dharma first. Yeah, that's usually the... But then also, is it first the realizational Dharma or the scriptural Dharma? There's a way in which the Dharma, like the teachings, can be divided, not so much the teachings, but the Dharma itself, into the Dharma of realization, one's own experience, and the scriptural Dharma, the teachings, whether it's the verbal teachings or maybe even the written word. In this case, what comes first? The scriptural teachings, that is the teachings that are given to us, or the realizations? The scripture, right? Those go first. First we listen to the teachings, we come to some understanding, we practice it, and then we gain realizations, yes. But then there's this debate about why do you need the Buddha when you've already taken the scriptural teachings? So in order to rely on the Buddha, you need to have faith in the Buddha. How do you develop faith? Through the scriptural teachings, then the realizational teachings. But when you have the realizational teachings, you have the realizations, you don't need the Buddha. There's a bit of that debate. What do you think could be an answer to that? Yeah.
I would need the Buddha after having faith in the teachings, before getting realization. So I need it in order to help me to get a realization.
Well, but if So you need the Buddha. So you first rely on the Buddha before you rely on the Dharma?
I rely on the Dharma before...
Until you attain...
Before having realizations, the Dharma, I need the guide to help me to make realizations.
So the question here is, to rely on the Dharma, what does that mean? On the scriptural Dharma and the realizational Dharma. All right. So scriptural, and then you go back to the Buddha? Unless you have some realization, unless you have some experience, you don't know whether the teachings work, do you?
The Buddha is anyway, I think, the embodiment of all three refuges. But first, in order to have the connection with the Buddha, I need to have some understanding of the Dharma.
Some understanding.
Yeah,
Isn't it just together the Dharma and the Buddha? Because the Buddha gave the Dharma. You can't take refuge in the Dharma without
taking
refuge. There's something behind it, something you achieve something.
Right. Well, I get reliance here, like reliance in the sense of like you totally trust this person. I mean, we're a little bit in the beginning with the Dharma and the Buddha. We're kind of like, yeah, maybe, maybe not, right? We start off in that way. But once we really, wow, this really works. I really want to rely on the Buddha. I want to rely on the Dharma. But which comes first? Your determination to rely on the Dharma, and then thereafter, simultaneous will be a little difficult.
I understand the Dharma, it comes first. But
yes.
Once you just start walking, you understand, it didn't come from nowhere. It came from somebody. It came from the Buddha.
Right, okay, I get that.
You achieve something. So, to me, it seems like when you're relying on the Dharma, you also have to rely on the Buddha. It's just, otherwise there's no point.
Okay, okay, Vada?
I would like to elaborate, because in the way of the refuge, I want to now I forget it. I want to reach enlightenment. Then you have the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And then it's until I become a Buddha, in order to bear. So actually you have the answer, but if you say that the Dharma is more important than the Buddha, it comes first, then why in the refuge you have the Buddha first, and then...
Okay, Varda adds another question. Why?
Enlightenment in the beginning and the Buddha at the end.
Okay, so if she adds another question, actually the order should be the Dharma first, and then the Buddha who teaches it, right? And it should be enlightenment first, which is the Dharma, which is the truth of the path. That should go first, and then the Buddha, and then, right? Is this what you're saying?
No, it says until I reach enlightenment.
Yes.
So it says until I reach enlightenment, until I become Buddha. So why is the difference? In the beginning it says until I reach enlightenment, in the end of the prayer is until I become Buddha.
It's just different wording. Until I become enlightened, until I become a Buddha, that's the same thing, right?
So
And in Tibetan it actually says, I go for refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha until I'm enlightened. It doesn't say until I'm enlightened. It says, I go for refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha, but that's not what you're asking. Yeah.
So it says it twice, exactly the same thing actually.
Yeah, I mean, no, in Tibetan it doesn't say it twice.
Okay.
Oh yes, it says at the end, through the merit of practicing generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. But that's different. Initially you say, until I'm enlightened, I will take refuge. May I become enlightened. So basically, like, if I do become enlightened, I'll take refuge until then. Okay? And then please assist, or may these practices of giving, etc., may they lead me to enlightenment.
So there should be actually two passages.
Yes, they're different. One is refuge, and one is bodhicitta.
And then if you say that the Dharma should be first, then why is it written the Buddha first?
Yeah, that's your main question. Why is the Dharma, why doesn't it come first? Yes. Inspiration.
So,
I mean, I think it will be explained. There's another reason given, but I think that also works. That we need... Otherwise, how do we know it's possible? Right? See, she's saying that to know it's possible, we need the Buddha first to know this is possible, that the Dharma can actually be actualized by someone like the Buddha. But I still have that question. It's still like, the second chapter is all about relying on someone who's reliable, if you like. Someone we can actually entrust ourselves in. That's the Buddha. It's all about this. But then the question is, how do you go about it? Like, don't you have to first understand the Dharma? And for that, don't you have to have first some experience? Just listening to the teachings and going, oh, well, that's nice. It's not enough, right? To really rely on the Buddha. I mean, here I'm not talking about superficial reliance, but I'm talking about like really dedicating our life to the Buddha. That's like the different levels of refuge. So the initial level would be, yeah, it's kind of nice, but I'm busy. So I've got other things on my plate. I can every now and then think of the Buddha, makes me feel good. But that's not the kind of reliance. Like really to different levels of taking refuge. So the highest level of taking refuge is when the Dharma is always there. In every situation you check, how can I deal with this? In every situation, like the Dharma is always in the back of your mind. So the solution, you always look for the solution in the Dharma. In every life situation. Okay, I'm not talking about dealing with problems, but even dealing with ordinary situations. How can I transform them into bodhicitta, into love and compassion? That kind of dedication, if you like, that kind of devotion or reliance, in that case, what comes first? Do you first have to understand this works? I mean, we're not forced to do this. No one tells us we need to do this, because you can't force anyone. Unless you feel, wow, this is really helping me. This is so different from anything before. This is the medicine. Until you get to know that, no way you're going to rely on the Buddha. No way. And you shouldn't. You're lucky that, or we are lucky that this is not part of our culture, because Tibetans do it automatically. They don't even know who the Buddha is. They don't know the Dharma. They just have faith. Most of them, unless they learned about Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Now, therefore, what is the procedure? I'm just presenting this debate. So they're saying, first you need some realization, you need some experience. I'm not talking about the highest level, but some experience. And then you rely on the Buddha. Okay? So do you need... I could take it further to give you a hint. You need to have all the experiences? Well, no, because then you wouldn't need the Buddha. So how much experience do you need? How much do you need to? The Four Noble Truth? More? Less? How much experience do you need? There is no clear-cut answer. We could go on for quite a while. I guess it's difficult to put it into words and then to put a limit to it. But that's a very common debate in the beginning of the second chapter. And when you think about it, it's really hard to determine how much do I need. The more the better. But the more I'm determined, the more I'm reliant, the less I need the Buddha. Right? Anyway, that's just the debate.
Would you say at least assuming correct, or even doubt towards the effect?
But scriptural realization is actually having renunciation, for instance, like having the experience yourself. And a certain degree of experience would be helpful. Not every realization is super difficult and, you would have, like, I'm not talking about realizing emptiness. Okay? And then the question goes on, how much do you need to realize to know the Four Noble Truth? What is the limit? I mean, how much do you at least need to understand the Four Noble Truth? First true truth, for instance. Okay, do you need to understand emptiness to know the Four Noble Truth? So there's all that discussion, of course, for our own sake, to think, well, am I really understanding them? Do I have everything that's needed to understand the Four Noble Truth? Do I need to get more into it? Do I need to study it further? Anyway, that's just, it's not that important, but it came up as we were talking about this. So here the approach is based on already some understanding of the Dharma. then the qualities of the Buddha are presented in here. The first one, that should I take from Asanga's text, Compendium of Determinations, which is also an Abhidharma text. No, that's not an Abhidharma text. Sorry, that's another one. Anyway, so Buddhas have attained the sublime state of fearlessness. Buddhas are experts in training disciples. Buddhas have great compassion. And Buddhas are not pleased with material offerings, but with offerings of practice. Alright, so the first one is so important, fearlessness. In what sense? If we have fear, rational fear, what is the Mahayana fear? The lowest scope fear is fear of what? The lowest scope fear? Lower rebirth, yes. The middling scope fear is fear of samsara. What is the fear of the Mahayana fear? Nirvana. But what else? All sentient beings suffering. Being fearful of sentient beings suffering. So you're fearful of nirvana only indirectly, in the sense that you don't want to be stuck somewhere where you can't benefit sentient beings, but your main concern is of the sentient beings suffering. Okay? So does the Buddha no longer have that fear? Sentient beings are still suffering. Should have. So the fear of sentient beings suffering means something very specific. Because otherwise the Buddha would be fearful. Pardon? Pardon? The fear of not realizing emptiness, that you overcome when you, in the middling scope. The fear of something. What is the fear? What kind of, more specifically that you are still left, say as a bodhisattva, but a Buddha no longer has that fear. What would that precisely be? Because if it's just the fear of sentient beings suffering, then the Buddha would have to have that fear. One's own inability to remove the suffering. So basically, there is of course fear of nirvana, yes, fear of sentient beings suffering, but mainly it's the fear of not being able to benefit sentient beings, not being able to help them in the most effective way. So that is fear of one's own cognitive obscurations. The obscurations to enlightenment. So basically when we talk about the fear of a person of middling scope, it's strictly speaking, the fear of afflictive obscurations. Is everyone familiar with afflictive obscurations? Afflictive obscurations versus cognitive obscurations. Afflictive obscurations are those obscurations in our own mind, whatever is extra in our own mind that keeps us from becoming liberated. It's just extra. It's not supposed to be there. It was added because of our additional... Buddhism is all about too much. We have too much of certain things that are harming us. It's not about too little. We may think we have too little qualities, but actually everything is already here. All the qualities to become a Buddha are already here, in the sense that right now they're obstructed. They're prevented from coming through. So remember, maybe I told you, that's why we say we have Buddha nature. One of my teachers gave the example, like when you go to a restaurant and it says Israeli salad. If it's a good restaurant, the Israeli salad is freshly prepared. They don't have it sitting there since morning, because otherwise it'd be all sucky and not very tasty. So a good restaurant would freshly prepare the vegetables. So are they lying when they say we have Israeli salad on the menu, or shakshuka or whatever, right? That's also freshly prepared, right? So they're lying? No. They're saying we have all the ingredients right there. We don't need to go out shopping. And if they got chicken, they don't have to kill the chicken and then come back to prepare it. Therefore, what it means is that when we have Buddha nature, it means we have all the ingredients to become a Buddha. It's all there. But it can't come through because of the obscurations in our mind. That's the main aspect. So when you study philosophy, there's a lot of emphasis on that which is extra. Which is why negations are so important. Negation, cessation, right? We don't talk about the third truth as adding these qualities. It's not an affirmative, it's a negation, getting rid of what is extra. So Buddhahood is understanding we have everything here, we got all the ingredients, we just need to get rid of what's extra. And it's all very clear that even when we talk about the misperception of reality, it just adds things. It gives phenomena an additional existence that they can't have. It doesn't deny the existence of something that is already there, as like the root misperception. We may deny the existence of karma, etc., but that is not the root misperception of reality. The root cause of all our trouble is adding too much. Adding a mode of existence to things that things never had and will never have.